I'll have someone go downstairs and say, I don't know if he's, I can't recall if he's downstairs or not, to be honest with you.
We are live, Dr. Adley.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Adley, you'd like me to begin?
I'll just say a quick hello to people. Thank you for joining us today to take a wee trip down the high school lane here in terms of what school looks like when we open here in the fall. I hope this finds your family safe and well. Just a wee reminder to people, if you didn't catch the health and safety meeting yesterday, there's a chance to preview that, look at it again on the district website under the reopening communications. In that meeting, we had Alicia Kasuchi. Alicia is our Director of Nursing and also the COVID-19 Compliance Officer. We thank her for that. We also had David Knopf, the Health Director for the time, and also our Medical Advisor, Dr. Kennefick. And I think you'll find it was informative and helpful. So you can also sort of breeze through it a little bit to look at various sections of it along the way. So we encourage you to do that. Today's a wee opportunity to look at the hybrid model as we transition then to the full model on the 29th to see what that looks like at the high school. I do want to say, I mean, given the size of our high school, it's a Herculean effort. I want to pay tribute to Ellen and the administrative team and indeed all the staff for all of their work in putting the plan in together and doing the best we can to make sure that we have an excellent system for the kids and a confident system. What you do at home, what we do in schools, both matter to each other and they both matter to the greater community in terms of how successful we will be. So we thank you for partnering that, and in the next couple of weeks for partnering us down the stretch and some of the education that we need to do for our students and each other. So with that, I'll pass it on to Principal Dunn and let her lead us off. I will say just about questions though. If you have questions, process for that is there's an email that Ellen will just share with you right away. You can go on now if you would like to do that. Please keep as concise as you can, would be helpful, and they'll be read out and addressed at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adley, and welcome to all of our families and students who I'm sure are also signing on this afternoon. We have selected to use the mean wave here on our first slide because we want the mean wave to work against COVID-19 and make this a successful year for all of us. So we're taking our blue wave pride right into our opening plan. The questions, please, as Dr. Adley said, address an email to this address, and at the end of the meeting, we will be taking those questions one at a time. Any questions that we don't get to answer, we will respond to and include in our frequently asked questions on the website. So today, we'll be hearing from our assistant principals, Kate Demoulis, Mark Mazzoni, and Paul Rivero. In addition, Megan Emanuelson will talk a little bit about guidance updates, Chris Manfredonia with our athletic updates, and Dr. Scott McCarthy will address some of our special ed updates as well. So transitioning back to school, the hybrid will allow us to smoothly transition to the new expectations that we're setting for our students and our staff. You'll notice that we are in the building today. We're wearing our masks because we are asking our students to do the same whenever in our building. So we're setting those expectations for ourselves. Obviously, the social and emotional support that our students will need will be a priority for us. And so the relationships they have with teachers in our building may be the most important intervention in that area. We will have advisory periods increased to once per week instead of once every 8 days. Our guidance seminars will continue by grade level. Our wonderful team of school counselors, psychologists, our social worker will be on the front line with your children to make sure that we are caring for them in this adjustment. And of course, our assistant principals who work in this part of the alphabet, but all of us are here. Please do reach out if you see any signs of concern, and we will partner with you to make sure we have a successful year and that we help our young people to handle the challenges of the day. I'm going to turn over to Kate Demoulas to talk a little bit about orientation.
Great. So we are looking forward to welcoming all of our incoming students, grade 9, and those who are transferring to DHS for the first time this fall. We are planning a virtual orientation website, which will be sent to all families of 9th graders and incoming students by the end of the week. You'll find content there, including helpful faces around the building, welcome videos for academics, advice from our senior mentors called our Blue Wave Anchors, who will also be assigned to freshman advisories. They'll be reaching out to our freshmen next week at the end of the week to introduce themselves and welcome them to DHS. On September 2nd, we will have an abbreviated orientation day that will include iPad pickup so that they'll have their one-to-one devices for the first day of school in the morning, followed in the afternoon by virtual advisory meetings with their Blue Wave Anchors and their faculty advisor at 1:30, as well as a meeting with their school counselors via Zoom at 2 o'clock. And those links will be sent to student email addresses as invitations to the Zooms ahead of time. Our New Wave Club will also be hosting a virtual meeting with incoming transfer students in grades 9 through 12 prior to the start of school to welcome them. So we're looking forward to those opportunities to get to know everyone. There will be an opportunity to share any questions that you don't have the answers to on the virtual website for the orientation. So we'll make sure that we've addressed as much as we can to give that first day of school a really successful start.
Thank you, Kate. So on the screen, you'll see a calendar that we shared with you over the weekend. This details the day of the rotation and which part of the alphabet is present in school on these days. Our 2 Fridays of the month will be remote learning days. And you can see the Blue and Wave cohorts as they are meeting during the month of September until the date of September 29th, when we expect to all return to the building. As Kate just said, on Wednesday the 2nd, there will be some orientation activities for all of our new students. Thursday and Friday will be orientation of sorts for the rest of our students as well. We have a Blue day on Thursday, a Wave day on Friday, where half of the alphabet will be present. We will have all periods meet during those days so that our students will get to meet all of their teachers and then be ready to begin the following Tuesday when we go into the full hybrid schedule. September 3rd and 4th schedules have also been sent home in the email that I sent over the weekend. And so these will also be posted on the website, but this shows you the all periods meet and advisory days that will take place. Essentially, September 3rd and 4th will be a repeat of the same day twice so that all of our students will get exposed to the orientation to DHS. And you've also seen the block schedule, which is going to stay in place in the hybrid model and also in the full return model. It doesn't change, except the only difference is that we have those remote Fridays in the hybrid model that would not be taking place after September 29th. Those days will be half days, but we will be in the building. And so you see the periods are 85 minutes long. Classes are meeting every other day. And this allows for better exposure in terms of students interacting with teachers and each other, and is a great opportunity for us to have a schedule that really can work in any of the 3 plans that we may have to experience over the course of the year. And here is the Friday remote learning schedule. Again, we'll have a weekly advisory on Fridays. The letter rotation continues, and we allow for teacher collaboration in the afternoon. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul Ribeiro for a little bit, and he's going to talk about what the schedules will look like in Aspen when students are able to view them.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as you can see here, for those of you that are familiar with Aspen, this is a sample of what a schedule will look like. I won't get into too much detail as far as the time periods and things like that, but basically you can see that on any given day, there's only 4 classes that are meeting for it. So in this case, on A day for this student, it's Algebra 2, English, and World Studies, and then the following day, it's their business class, their French class, their PE, and their chemistry. Now, courses that typically don't meet every day when we're running our former schedule that don't necessarily receive a full credit, like PE, health, ASR, IDEA, those classes are going to be meeting in what we refer to as a mini period. So in that 85-minute block, those courses, let's say like PE and health, will only be meeting for 40 minutes out of the 85. Within the total 85. You know, we might have some students that have 2 mini classes at the same, during the same block, and so they'll have 5 minutes to go from one class to the other. But for the most part, students will just have 1. And for most of them, it'll be that PE and that health that meets in that mini block there. So full period is 85, and then a mini block is a 40-minute period. So in the hybrid model, there's going to be lots of different types of instruction going on. Obviously for students that are in the building and for students that are home that are accessing it. Many of our students became very accustomed to this, obviously in the spring or the late winter into early spring. Teachers are going to be using Zoom, Google Classroom, some live streaming and some other things. But really the thing is that over the course of the 85 minutes, there's going to be multiple ways that teachers are going to instruct students. There's going to be some time where teachers are talking to the entire class, both the students that are physically in front of them and the students that are home. There are times that the teacher might be working more in smaller groups, whether that's with some of the students that are home or some of the students that are there in class. And while that's going on, then students will be working independently. So it's going to be a variety of different things. And as far as assessment goes, again, it's going to be a variety of different things that are going to change. There are going to be some assessments that teachers are going to be able to do remotely, and there are going to be some assessments that will be solely done here in the building. So it will be a variety of different things that will happen for students when they are home during the hybrid. And then for families that do choose to have their students stay home and do solely remote learning, for those students, it'll be similar to the days that the students are at home during the hybrid. Those students will be on class rosters in classes, especially if a family decides to change from remote learning to in-person learning. So the student will be able to transition seamlessly. Again, those students will be able to stay engaged in classes, whether it's through Zoom meetings or Google Meets. They'll have a schedule to follow similar to what happens if they were here in person. There'll be times that they're working independently, and there'll be times that they're working individually with the teacher or in small groups. But the materials that are being covered in class, the students will have access to that, whether it's through Google Classroom or some other means that the teachers are using. They will be able to access that through whatever platform they're able to work out with the teacher. And then obviously, we don't, despite the difficulties that we're going through, we don't want to take away some of the help that teachers are able to provide students and help build some of those relationships that are obviously very important, and which is why we are making these attempts to be in person. So teachers will still be available to meet, but it might look a little bit differently. In some cases, it might be doing that individual help over Zoom, or it might be if they're physically here in the building, they might meet in the classroom or even outside. We are definitely trying to encourage the use of outside while the weather is still good here in the late summer and early fall. And I have a feeling that a lot of people will be taking advantage of that. So teachers will still be available. Again, it just may vary, and the times might be varied. The before school and after school might look a little bit different, and there might not be as much availability then, but definitely during school and after school hours in different ways, we expect that teachers will definitely be available. But again, it just might be in different formats, like in Zoom sessions or in other areas like that. And now I'll turn it over to Scott McCarthy to talk a little bit about special education in the hybrid model.
Great. Thank you, Paul. I just wanted to start off by saying a quick thank you to Principal Dunn and your administrative team who have truly exemplified visionary leadership in designing a hybrid plan and schedule that addresses the needs of every unique learner in such a short time. It's been truly impressive. The Special Education and Student Services Department presented to families whose children access our specialized programs last Friday. We will present again this Friday to all families of students with IEPs, so I'll make my comments here brief. First, I'd like to welcome our new Department Chair of Special Education and Student Services, Christina Bross-Taylor, who's already onboarding and becoming acquainted with our new processes. We've been working very closely with the DHS administration in the planning for a hybrid reopening, including scheduling and considerations for unique circumstances. Our learning centers, co-taught classes, and comprehensive classes will operate on the hybrid rotation. When students are not present, they will participate remotely. Professional development on the provision of special education instruction in a remote capacity will be provided to all staff prior to the school year starting. We have done our very best to schedule all related services like counseling, speech, OT, and PT as in-person services. When this is not possible, we will continue to provide them remotely. Paraprofessional support will operate in the same capacity as it did previously and be available remotely on days students are not in class. Our specialized programs core will operate on a hybrid schedule, and students who access our most comprehensive program, Excel, will have the option to attend Monday through Thursday. Last, we understand that a number of PPT meetings and evaluations were not able to be conducted during the spring and the summer due to the school closure. Our focus right now will be on transitioning students and staff to their new hybrid programs, and we will work closely with the DHS administration to develop a prioritization structure to make up these meetings in a way that least impacts students' instructional time with their teachers.
Thank you, Scott. We're going to turn over to Mark Mazzoni. He's going to cover some of the logistics that will be in place in the coming weeks. And, you know, these may seem secondary, of course, to learning and instruction and the important work that we do here every day, but the success of this plan really relies on these logistics. So I want to thank Mark for all the work he's done here and the rest of the team. And take it away, Mr. Mazzoni.
Thank you so much, Ellen. And I'll first talk to you about moving about the building. It's going to be a little bit different this year, as you might imagine. So we're going to have one-way hallways and one-way stairwells throughout the entire building. And there'll be signage everywhere, as well as the virtual maps that you'll see on the next slide. So students can start planning out the most direct way to their classes. But this will only be utilized during the passing period. So students who are on free period or students who are leaving a class to use a restroom can still move about the building as they normally would. We just want to mitigate as much as we can students passing by each other in the hallway during the most crowded time during passing periods. Classrooms will also we'll stagger the exits into the hallways from classrooms as much as we possibly can. And passing periods have been extended to 10 minutes just for the extra travel time from class to class, and also to hopefully give students a chance to make their way through the courtyard while traveling to class so they can take a mask break. These were also sent to you by Ellen on Saturday in her email. So I'll move through them quickly, but feel free to reference them after the presentation. So this is the basement floor, and while the other floors are clockwise or counterclockwise, this one's a little bit trickier, just based on how the school is designed. The thing to note here is that the way to reach the cafeteria, the best way to reach the cafeteria is through the BC stairwell at the end of the B hallway, and then also the stairwell at the end of the C hallway. So you won't be able to access the cafeteria from the auditorium doors from the courtyard, and that's just during passing period. So during a passing period, if you are trying to access the cafeteria, you'll need to go down that C stairwell or the BC stairwell. And here's the first floor, and the first floor will move counterclockwise across the entire building. Again, the green arrows indicate an up stairwell and the red arrows indicate a down stairwell. Something to note here is just at the end of the C hallway, you can see that is the down stairwell to the cafeteria, as well as an up stairwell to the second floor, which moves counterclockwise. And you can see the second floor right there moving counterclockwise, and then the third floor moving clockwise again. Restrooms and water fountains are going to look and be used a bit differently this year. And again, in order to keep students as safe as we possibly can. So there'll be a 3-student maximum capacity in each of our restrooms. There'll be signs on every single door, and we'll also mark off spots outside each restroom with X's on the floor, just to make sure that as students may be waiting in line to use the restroom, they'll be socially distanced. And for our water fountains, the spouts will be turned off, but the no touch motion sensors for water bottles will be turned on. So please make sure that you bring your water bottles to school, and we can still use our water fountains that way. Lunch. So lunch for all our students who have a class during the 3rd time slot each day, which is our lunch period, they'll remain in that classroom to eat lunch. And the lunches, if you're ordering through Chartwells, will actually be delivered to the class, which I'll talk more about on the next slide. Students have a free period during that 3rd time slot, can choose to eat in the cafeteria, or we encourage them to use our courtyard and eat outside, weather permitting as well. And Kate DeMoulis later on will talk about open campus a bit more, but our seniors who are free during the lunch wave can potentially leave campus with approval from their parents and have lunch off campus and then return for the last period of class. So all lunch, if you're ordering from the school, is going to be pre-ordered. Again, this was in the email that Ellen sent on Saturday, but just to run through it quickly again, there'll be an app, the NutriSlice app. You can also visit online at darien.ps.nutrislice.com, and you can view nutrition facts. You can see the menus. You can see allergy information as well. But all lunch is going to have to be pre-ordered this year. And that's just to make sure that Chartwells is able to make the food in time to deliver it to the classrooms. Now, while you pre-order, you'll also indicate the classroom that the student is going to be in. That's very important to make sure that your lunch is actually delivered to the right place. So especially during those first couple of weeks, make sure you're checking your schedule and making sure you're indicating the correct classroom that you'll be in. And then during that lunch wave, a cart will come around to that classroom and actually deliver your pre-ordered lunch. So though lunch can be ordered up to a week ahead of time, it must be ordered by 7:30 a.m. on the day of, just to give them enough time to make it. But again, we encourage at least the night before, and if you want to get it done for the entire week, that's totally possible as well. Very important that if a student forgets to bring their lunch or forgets to pre-order lunch, that there'll still be a cold option available that they'll offer. So as that cart comes around to deliver pre-ordered lunches to classrooms, if a student needs something, still needs lunch, there'll be a cold option, just one option for them to choose that day and buy, and that'll work as well. So if a student is on free period, the same is true in a cafeteria as well. The method of payment will be the same as it's been in the past, and that's using Meals Plus. And also breakfast will be available for purchase in the cafeteria from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. And that's not pre-ordered. That's just a show up, and they'll have some hot options there as well for breakfast. Megan Bendish is the Chartwells director, and she is really great. And you see her email right there on at the bottom of the screen. So you can certainly reach out to us and reach out to her if you have any questions. Student IDs will be used as they have been in previous years. They'll be used to gain entry into the building and also to sign in at the attendance desk if you're late. All freshmen, I'm staring at all of your IDs on my desk right here, so they're ready for you, and we'll be able to get them to you on September 3rd or 4th, whichever day you're coming in. They'll be delivered to you during your advisory period. For the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders who have misplaced their ID over the past 6 months and have requested a new ID, those will be made beforehand. So you guys will also receive your new IDs during the 3rd or 4th. If you still need to request a new ID, that is completely fine. Just click on the link that Ellen sent on Saturday, and you can fill it out, and we'll have it made for you ahead of time and delivered to you during advisory. For all new students to DHS, to all new 10th, 11th, or 12th grade students to DHS, I should say, on those first days, either September 3rd or 4th, whichever day that you're in, please see Jim Smith at the attendance desk, and he'll have to take your picture. And then by the next week, the week of September 7th, he'll have your ID ready for you. So you can just go back that next week, and Jim Smith will be able to give you your ID. For arrival and dismissal, so we have 3 drop-off areas in the morning, not including the bus loop. So there's in the main loop at the auditorium, in the main loop at the front entrance, and then in the athletic loop right outside the gyms. So as students get dropped off, we encourage them to enter in the nearest door to their first class. And I'll show you a map on the next page in a moment. But no matter where a student gets dropped off, if weather permitting, we encourage them to walk around the external of the building and enter in the school to the nearest door to the first class. Then they can make their way directly to their first class. And that'll certainly depend on the direction of the hallway, where their class is. And students who don't have class or not taking part in open ends, you can choose to work in the library or the cafeteria or outside in the courtyard. And that'll be for students also who still need to take the bus in the morning, whether they're, if they're on a free period, though the library, the cafeteria, and outside will be open to all students. For pickup, parents should pick up students one of the 3 pickup locations identified on the map on the next page. So here are many of the entrances into DHS, and the circles you can see are open all day, and the squares on this map are open before school and after school. So you can see that 3 of these circles are red, and Kate DeMoulis in a moment will talk to you a little bit about open ends and open campus. But anyone signing out of the building for open ends or open campus will need to exit through one of those red entrances, and that's outside the library, at the athletic loop, or in the cafeteria. There'll be a swipe machine there that you'll need to utilize to swipe out for the day if it's open ends at the end of the day. And then for you seniors taking part in open campus and open lunch, swiping back in as well. And lastly, for me, our emergency drill procedures. So we're working with the Darien Police Department, and we're trying to figure out the best way and the safest way to conduct our drills. And what we do know so far is that we'll give plenty of notice for all of our emergency drills, and we'll be able to hold Q&A sessions virtually with our students beforehand, just to give students as much time to ask us questions. We'll share any presentations or videos that we make as soon as we finalize these with our students and our families.
Thank you, Mark. Kate's
you.
going to take over with masks.
Sure. So as you know, all students and faculty are required to wear masks at all times in the building unless it's medically contraindicated, and that documentation's been shared with our health office. So we understand that sometimes students, faculty members may need to take mask breaks. Those will be available during our outside spaces and can be taken during free periods or during passing periods. They have 10 minutes. Many students cut across the courtyard. Those are opportunities where we can take a quick mask break. We are encouraging students to maintain that social distancing of at least 6 feet when those masks are off, even when they are outside. So as Mr. Mazzoni referenced, during free periods, students who are in the building have access to the library, the cafeteria, and of course, outdoor spaces, weather permitting. There will be limited seating and other safety and social distancing measures taking place in each of those spaces, the library and the cafeteria. And open ends is typically reserved as a senior privilege for second semester seniors. In order to promote social distancing this year, we are extending that opportunity to all students in grades 9 through 12, and there will be an opportunity for parents to give permission to students to participate in the open ends program. What that means is that a student who has either the first time slot of the day free on any given day or the last time slot of the day free can leave campus early or arrive to campus late without penalty. And as Mr. Mazzoni said, to leave campus, they will swipe out at one of those 3 doors, the athletic loop, the cafeteria, or the library door. Seniors, in addition to having access to the open ends all year with parental permission, can also participate, again with parental permission, in the open campus, which this year will mean if they have the lunch period free, the entire 3rd time slot on a specific day, and they have access to transportation, that they will be allowed to leave for lunch and then return in time for the beginning of their next class. And again, to keep track of who's in the building, we're asking them to sign out and back in at those 3 designated entrances. I'll touch quickly on extracurriculars and then turn it over to Mr. Manfredonia for athletics. I'm super proud of our robust offerings for clubs and student activities here, and we're excited that we're going to continue having those available to students this year. It may look a little different. Many of our organizations will run virtually, and we will work with our faculty advisors to determine when and where it's appropriate and safe to hold in-person meetings or events if that's desired by those organizations. The club and activities website on the DHS website will have the registration and the club proposal forms available for the first day of school, as well as our updated club directory. Mr. Manfredonia?
Thank you, Kate. So the word of the day from the CIAC in terms of athletics has been fluid. There's been lots of changes in terms of the athletic programming that will be offered this fall throughout the state. As of right now, we're scheduled to start football on August 24th, all the other fall sports on August 27th. That is pending a meeting later in the week with the CIAC and the Department of Public Health for the state of Connecticut. So there may be changes again as we move forward throughout the course of the month. But as of now, we're scheduled to start 24th for football and the 27th for the rest of our fall sports. I've been working closely with Alicia Casucci, our Director of Nursing Supervisor, as well as our athletic trainers, to change our policies and procedures to make sure that our facilities are as safe as possible for our student athletes who will be participating in sports. And that includes, sanitation of equipment, sanitation of the locker room, different use of our locker room space and equipment space for our athletes after school, different use of the athletic training facility to make sure that our student athletes are staying safe, and coaches as well, as we navigate the world of athletics in a world of a pandemic. I'd be happy to share more information as it becomes available to the parent population. As I said, as I started, the word is fluid. There's been lots of changes. We expect there to be some more changes as we move forward. We are hopeful that we will have an athletic season, although it will look quite different as it has in years past. It will likely be a regionalized schedule, meaning we'll play just teams in our region to limit our transportation. So expect that there will be a reduced number of games, less transportation needs for our teams. We'll play primarily in the Greenwich to New Canaan to Stanford area. Anticipate sub-varsity sports happening on weekends. That's another change that's been discussed at the state level. So not as many games during the week, varsity only likely, and then sub-varsity contests occurring on the weekends. We haven't seen a final schedule yet. The schedules that were posted on the CIAC site earlier this summer have been deleted, with new schedules being proposed and worked on as we speak. So as soon as we have that information, we will certainly pass it on. And again, it's been fluid, it's been ever changing, but rest assured that the policies and procedures that we have put in place here has the safety and well-being of our student athletes in mind.
Thank you, Chris. And I'd like to welcome Megan Emanuelson to give us some guidance updates.
Thank you, Ellen, and good afternoon, everyone. I will be sending a comprehensive communication with all things as it relates to the work that our office does, but I did just want to take a few minutes to share some highlights today, mostly focused on a lot of the questions that I know we've been receiving. So student schedules will be released through Aspen on August 27th, and the counselors will hold virtual office hours on August 28th and the 31st in order to resolve schedules that have errors or schedules that are incomplete. And we'll be communicating how to schedule those virtual meetings and the links and everything that students need in order to have some FaceTime with their counselors to talk about their schedules. We will be scheduling some time for our 9th graders on September 2nd to come and just meet with the counselor. Again, this will be done virtually, but we'll put a name and a face for our new 9th graders. Seniors will have a guidance seminar in their Q1 schedules, scheduled as a mini block. So we're excited to start the work with seniors on their post-high school planning. We have been very, very proud and very fortunate about having almost 250 colleges that visit Darien High School every year. And many, many, many of them have reached out to us and are still very interested in meeting with students. Their travel is also limited by their employers and their universities. And so they have requested, and we are so happy to oblige, the college visits will be virtual this year. And students will be able to sign up for visits that will take place both during the school day and after school hours virtually. And again, more information coming on how to sign up for that. PSAT and SAT school day for the seniors is currently planned for October 14th during the school day. That registration will be internal and that will be sent out again closer to the start of school. Last year, PSAT was done through School Cash. I anticipate something similar this year. So that will be an internal registration. It's not something that you do through College Board, and I'll send more detailed information. And again, a very complete, comprehensive email with additional details will be sent closer to the start of school.
Thank you very much, Megan. And so we know that we've presented a lot of information here, and we're happy to take your questions. If there are questions that occur after today, of course, reach out to any one of us and we will get you an answer if we don't have the answer at that moment. We are really looking forward to seeing our students being back together, and I'm sure there will be updates coming over the next week and 2 weeks before we are here to greet you on September 3rd. So I will open it up now to Kate, who's going to provide us with some questions. And many of our members of the Central Services team are also present, and so we will handle the questions that you have.
All right, thank you. So our first question comes from Radhika Kadiri, and they would like to know, can a student start in the hybrid model and then move into online learning once full in-person learning starts?
Yes, we agree that we would like to have our students begin in the hybrid model, if at all possible, and be here to greet and meet their teachers. If the decision is made to choose the remote learning model after beginning on September 29th, we're prepared to help students do that. Yes.
Thank you. Joshua Brown would like to know if buses, to confirm, are running every day for pickup and drop off.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Brenda Whitaker asked for clarification on September 3rd and September 4th. For example, her son is in the WAVE cohort, so will he be participating in any learning on September 3rd?
September 3rd and September 4th, because students are meeting in the hybrid and we're meeting all classes, the decision was made to kind of treat those 2 days as orientations to school and to the teachers. So there will not be assignments given to students who attend on the 4th and not the 3rd. We're really going to treat those as mirror images of one another so that we can welcome our students. The challenge of being in the hybrid means that we welcome them on 2 different days, but that's how we're going to be running things, yes.
Ali Magui would like confirmation that students will still have access to the tables in the library so that they can study and work during their free periods.
Yes, absolutely. The library is being set up for social distancing, as is the cafeteria, and those will be 2 places where students can work during free periods of the school day.
Teresa Janziol asked for will teachers be physically present in the classes to teach, or will some teachers be teaching from a different location when we're streaming from the classroom?
It's our expectation that teachers will be present in the classrooms. I might defer to Dr. Adley with the clarification around circumstances should we have teachers who are quarantined for one reason or another. There may be possibility that we would have those teachers streaming into the classroom. That's a kind of, we hope that's not going to happen, but there may be that piece to consider should conditions change at the school.
Yeah, Alan, I would say that the model is predicated on the teacher being in the classroom. There may be an exceptional circumstance for some exceptional reason that we're maybe not aware of at this point that comes up in the process, because a lot of this is a moving target, but the design of the model is that the teachers are in the classroom and it's not remote learning for teachers or remote teaching for teachers.
Thank you. Sheila Pistone would like clarification on how ASR will work this year.
ASR will work really the way that it always has worked, in that it will be a part-time class. It meets every other day, and so it will meet in the mini blocks within the schedule, and students will be engaged in their research, and it should operate exactly as it always has.
Okay. We have a couple questions from Lisa Sarusi. First, can you speak to the decision to implement the letter day rotation versus a simplified day 1 through 4 that we used during e-learning?
The reason to stay with the 8-day rotation, actually there were multiple reasons for that. First of all, it allows for those mini periods to be sustained. And it allowed us to take the schedule that we had built and the schedule that counselors had already addressed in June and designed and answered conflicts with our student schedules individually. It allowed us to fold that schedule into a 4-period block schedule. So maintaining those 8 days sustains everything that we had done so far, and also allows for those part-time periods to meet, for part-time speech and language to meet, for part-time idea and courses like that. So we wanted to sustain. I understand that can be a little bit confusing. I guarantee you that the students have it down. It's just harder for the adults to look at.
The next question is, who is responsible for designing the class format, Zoom, live stream, etc., for students who are opting for remote learning? Is that being managed by each individual teacher or by the guidance department?
It will be managed by the individual teachers with the guidance of the department chairs and the administration at the school. They will, in these professional learning days at the beginning of the school year, we'll be spending a tremendous amount of time with one another. The truth is, this is the first time we've entered into hybrid teaching. And having been at this for 34 years, it's the first time that I'm going to be helping teachers set that up. So I do think that, we'll ask for some patience at the very beginning, but I know that our teachers are among the best that exist, and our students are the same. So if we can't make this work, no one can make it work. And I have great confidence. I also think the 85-minute time block is going to create a lot of opportunity for individualized work and for small group work that we don't have in a typical 48-minute period in other years. So I think it really will provide some exciting opportunities for learning.
And I think you started to address this, but building a little bit on that idea, how can students engage and participate in a live stream classroom remotely so that they are participating in the discussion real time?
I think Zoom will do that very well. And so really what we'll be doing is operating the Zoom and the live stream camera at different times, allowing for students at home to engage, and also for the students in the classroom to interact with the students at home. I've said to the teachers many times in this conversation that I imagine myself when I was teaching biology at Darien High School and having students help to operate the Zoom and watch for hands being raised at home, and that this is a community effort. In fact, this entire endeavor is a community effort where we have to care for one another and take care of each other and really think of others as we go through this learning experience. So I have great confidence that we'll be able to engage learners both in school and outside of school.
And Lisa's final question is, how is the district addressing student privacy issues for live stream classes?
I'm sorry, Kate, I didn't hear the last part.
Sorry. How is the district addressing student privacy issues while live streaming classes?
Well, Dr. Adley, you might want to jump in on that from the whole district level, but
Sure. So we will be addressing that through the professional learning that's coming up for staff and under guidance of our legal counsel of what we should be doing, how we should be doing it. And we'd also be partnering with you as parents to ask you to do your part in making sure that we don't compromise any of those policies or processes.
Thank you. Susan Lukey asked, do study halls for freshmen count as free periods for the open ends policy? So can you speak to our decision not to run study halls, Mrs. Dunn?
yes. So we will not be having formal study halls in classrooms as we have in other years. That doesn't mean that in the next school year, we will not be having study halls, but right now we feel that the open ends policy should apply to the 9th grade as well as the other grades. Additionally, the effort to spread students out and use classroom space efficiently means that we are choosing not to use that classroom space for study halls at this time. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you. Carolina McGooey asked if we could go over our Friday schedule. Again, they're a bit confusing. So clarifying, all Fridays are half days throughout the school year. And can you clarify when they are in person and when they are remote?
They are remote when we are in the hybrid phase. Not every Friday in the hybrid phase, because the first week we have a shortened week because of Labor Day. So there are only 2 Fridays currently in the September schedule that are remote days. When we are all in, we're in school. And if we are ever to have to go to a remote learning environment, then obviously they would be remote days then.
Thank you. Amy Zerby asked what percentage of students take the bus, and will there be additional staff directing traffic during drop off and pickup? The bus question is probably a services question, but can we speak to how we are running the buses and any additional staff directing traffic during drop off and pickup?
So the buses at the last count were running at 90% occupancy. So that's the latest number that we had. And whatever practices were in place for receiving, I'll defer to the high school for the receiving of the kids, because I think that that's probably much the same process that you have in place right now.
Yes, we have a parking lot that can be challenging. We understand that. There really is not an additional staff member that's being placed in the parking lot for direction of traffic. We will have students, and as we receive them, going to classes directly or to the library or cafeteria if they're free. And we're going to, again, have to be patient with one another in the drop-off and in the entry to school. We do think that's one of the best pluses that we have in the hybrid to start out, because we will be testing these systems to see how they're working, and it allows us to make some changes if we need to before the end of the month. But thank you for that question.
Joshua Brown asked, before it stated 5-minute passing periods and now it states 10, which is accurate. And I think the question, I thought about that one for a minute. So in the middle of the periods, when we have the mini periods, those are 5-minute passing periods, because we don't anticipate as many students moving through the hallway as we would between the full 85-minute periods. Between each 85-minute period, those are 10-minute periods. And the 5-minute passing period allows for 40-minute mini period, 5-minute smaller passing period for that small number of students, and another 40-minute instructional block for those mini periods. Jen Osborne asks, will students be Zooming for gym period, art, and music?
I don't know, Mr. Manfredoni, if you want to talk about PE.
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about PE. So students who are at home during the hybrid portion of class will not be Zooming. they'll be given an alternate activity to do during the days in which they are home during the hybrid model. So when those students who are in school or in PE class, there will not be a Zoom lesson for those students who are at home in the hybrid model, although they will be given an alternate activity for that class period.
The other questions were, Kate, art and music?
Yes.
Yes, those students will be Zooming into those classes and participating as they would be in other classes. The challenging part with the PE is that we're scheduling our PE classes outdoors for the first quarter, so that we can have a very safe environment for our students to be exercising and participating in PE. And so all students who have health and PE will participate in the physical education during first quarter. And then we will finish the PE for all students in the fourth quarter, again, when the weather cooperates with being outdoors. So that's the reason for the Zoom decision. It's difficult to do that from outside.
Thank you. Suba Pasumardi asks, if we choose the remote learning option, can we assume that the quality of education and curriculum will be the same as a hybrid to in-person that is currently being contemplated? And if we choose remote learning, can we switch to in-person or vice versa?
So I would say yes, that we've talked, I think I'm correct, Dr. Adley, in saying that parents may choose to switch from one setting for their children to another, with some discussion with us so that we have some time to adjust and make a plan for re-entry or exit, depending on what the case may be. You know, hybrid learning and remote learning, I think, present some challenges. I think it is also true that we have done a very good job of managing remote learning at the high school. And I know that our teachers will be extremely dedicated to making that learning as close as possible to what the experience would be for students in the classroom.
Yes, Ellen. Certainly parents can make that choice. I would say certainly we, given the state has given parents the choice to opt out, so to speak, we will do the best we can to deliver the best education possible. I would say, honestly, it doesn't replace in-school learning. I'm not going to make the comparison between one versus the other. We'll do it with as much fidelity as we can and as well as we can. But I would encourage you to be in school. We're saying September 29th is the day to come back to school. We're saying that because the metrics would suggest that. So I would encourage as many people as possible, while respecting your individual decision, to do that. If you have to make a change, I would suggest, I'm not encouraging people to make multiple changes. I don't think that is going to be helpful to the teacher and most importantly to the student. But the basic answer is you are able to change that should you wish to do so.
Thank you. Lisa Fitzpatrick asks, when we say that passing periods can be used for mask breaks, does that mean that students can walk down the hallway from one class to another with their masks off?
No, we're asking students and faculty and all that are in the building to wear masks while inside, and that the mask breaks will be outside the building. And so many of our students cross the outside of the building in changing classes through the courtyard. Any free periods, any time that they're going for lunch and they want to take lunch outside, for example, if they are free during the lunch period and are still on campus. And obviously students will have lunch break, mask breaks while they're having their lunch in the building as well. But other than that, we really want to sustain masks for everyone's safety.
Thank you. Catherine Tarrant asked, can we drop lunches off at the message center?
Ah, the lunch at the message center question. So the answer is no, not this year. We are going to be either having students bring their lunch with them. We're not having visitors to campus to limit the exposure of our students to other adults in the building or visitors coming onto campus. So we will make sure that any student who doesn't have a lunch or has forgotten to order a lunch gets a lunch, but we can't be receiving materials and homework or anything like that, instruments at the front desk this year.
And she also would like to know how we'll sign students up for open campus, open ends, and parking passes. And some of that will be done through Aspen sign off. Some of that will be forms that get turned into the main office in the days leading up to school. We'll send out detailed directions on how to do that throughout this week. Lisa Fitzpatrick asks, are you able to maintain 3 feet distance between all desks?
Between all desks, Kate?
Yeah.
The classrooms now are set up for 3 feet distance in student desks. And certainly in the hybrid, we'll be able to create a larger distance with half the students in the room. Mark, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the setup of the classrooms.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, all the classrooms with desks in it have been set up at least 3 feet apart. Mike Lynch and John Kopek have done a great job getting our classrooms all set. They all look really ready to go right now. Some of our classrooms with tables in it, we've spread those tables out as much as we possibly can. In some cases, we've removed the tables and replaced them with desks, just to social distance. But we're also ordering plexiglass has been ordered and will be installed in those classrooms. So in some of our computer labs, there'll be plexiglass set up in there, and some of our tech ed classes where there are tables, we'll have as much plexiglass as we need down there to make sure students are safe while still being able to work and take part in the class.
Thank you. Jennifer Laird asked, is our alpha split A through K or A through L? We must have had a typo on a slide. I apologize for that. It is A through K. I'm going to combine a few similar questions for the sake of time, and that is about the safety factors. This is a district question. What factors will be used to assess safely going into full opening, and why has the decision been made not to commit to that until later in the year, as some other districts have done?
So you may, I just caught the end of that. Kate, can I just ask you to do, because there is a phone that I'm trying to turn off.
You want me to answer that, Dr. Adley? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. So to answer the question about returning to school in a hybrid plan over full in-school plan is because even though the metrics are showing us we can do it, there's a lot of unknowns. We haven't been in school since March, and we'd like to take our time to make sure our systems are in place and that we don't see a spike in numbers over the first several weeks of school starting. So it just gives us a little more time to be sure that we're making the right decision about the hybrid learning plan, and then we can see if the metrics still hold true, that it's good for us to go back as a full learning plan.
Kate, do you want to clarify too, that question was a little bit different about why are we not waiting a little bit longer in the hybrid?
So specifically, why not stay in the hybrid? This person recommends through Thanksgiving to allow teachers time to plan for online learning and make sure we have a learning environment through the data.
Yeah, so I can address that part of it. The data would suggest, like if you looked at just the strict data right now, it would suggest that we could come back to school right now in a full mode. I don't honestly think that is necessary, given the data. With basically, you're looking at the new COVID cases in a 7-day average. If you just look at numbers, we're about 3. They would have to go to 14 and then 35 to go to full remote. So it suggests we should be at 14. We're at 3, even to be in a hybrid. I think that's a reasonable amount of time to come adjusted to the practices, let our staff gain confidence in the system, make corrections as we go. And I'd also like to convey our intentions to the community.
Thank you. We've had a couple of questions come in about clubs. Specifically, Lori Wigglesworth asked, how will clubs operate virtually? If in the morning, would they need to be held earlier than in the past to allow students travel time to their first period class? And in the afternoon, again, they would have time to get home before they participate. So Lori, yes, we'll need to adjust when we have the meetings for clubs, and we'll work with both our student leaders for clubs and our faculty advisors to determine what works for each student group based on their participants. And in terms of operating virtually for clubs that are not proposing in-person meetings, and we will work with them to determine when and how it is safe to do so. Those will be held via Zoom, and those links will be shared with those students. And I know we're at 3 o'clock. So I think we have time for just a handful of more questions. Angela Riley asked how Learning Connections spaces will be utilized this year.
The Learning Connection spaces we're working with right now, the faculty offices around the building are somewhat cramped in terms of social distancing. And so we will need to be moving teacher desks into those areas. We're working on that right now, looking for phone jacks, electrical, and all the kind of boring details that you're not interested in terms of the logistics. But we don't know yet whether we're going to be able to use those spaces for students as well until we establish that. So right now we're saying that our student spaces will be the library and the cafeteria, and our teachers will meet with students in those spaces as well as open classrooms, and perhaps some space in the Learning Connections as well if we're able to work that out.
Thank you. Shelley Skoglund asked, can you provide additional clarification about instruction for students in person and simultaneously who are remote? Will both sets of students have the same learning objectives? And have curriculum pacing guides been revised to reflect block scheduling? Is it our expectation that the full curriculum will be completed within the school year and for APs in time for exams in the spring?
So yes, right now the department chairs are working with teachers to look at the curriculum and discuss how to use the 85-minute period in different ways and more exciting ways than the 48-minute period that we have become accustomed to. The first question, Kate, was?
The first question.
Oh, the hybrid and the students in the classroom. Yes, the objectives will be the same for both groups. Students will be coming and going from the group that's active in school to the group that is active from home. And it is my hope and the goal of our planning in the next few weeks that a student at home is going to be having the same experience as a student in school. That doesn't mean that there will be 85 minutes of screen time for those students at home, however, and it will be up to the creativity of our teachers in their lesson design to be able to break up the activities for that 85-minute period. No one would ever want to have an 85-minute period with one activity, whether that's lecture or laboratory work, etc. So I'm confident that the students in class and the students at home will be actively engaged in learning, and that our end goal will be met just as it was in the challenges of the spring, and we were prepared for APs at that point as well.
All right, Teresa Vogt asked, with more kids outside, will we be able to close the campus to town residents who walk around the oval fields? And will there be additional staff members outside to monitor kids to make sure they're following social distancing?
So with students who remain on campus and who are free and who are outside, our campus monitors, our teachers, our assistant principals, we will be around the building, including the areas outside. The areas we're going to use are the courtyard, the area above, the grassy area above the cafeteria, and then outside the cafeteria itself. So there will be adults monitoring those spaces as well.
Thank you. And Louise Giobi and Jane Massa sent the same question at the same time for Mr. Manfredonia, I believe, wanting to know students who are choosing remote learning, how will they participate in PE?
Yeah, so the CIAC requires that a student be a full-time enrolled student at a school to be eligible to participate in CIAC sports. I'm sorry, you said PE though, Kate?
This is just about PE. Yep.
Okay, so if they are full-time remote, we will reach out to them. They'll be assigned a PE teacher. They'll have to work on alternate activities that they can accomplish at home to meet their PE requirement, much like they did in the spring when we were fully remote for the entire school.
And Alicia, perhaps you can answer this question from Julia Fullington. What is the plan for when someone tests positive? Would the whole school go home, or how will other students be affected in other schools, for example, if a sibling gets it?
So anyone who is a close contact of someone who tests positive will be asked to remain home for 2 weeks for the 14 days as per the CDC guidance. The students within the school and individuals within the school, one second, sorry, who are considered close contacts will be contacting the local health department, David Knopf, and the nurses there, and we'll be working with them to determine who fits the criteria as a close contact, which is generally defined as someone within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, and determining who needs to be quarantined from that point on for the 14 days. And notification will go out to the school based on the recommendations of the health department and our medical advisor, Dr. Kenneth Beck.
Thank you. And Ellen, Julia also wanted to know, on days that students are home, would the whole class for the 85 minutes be live streamed?
No, there may be times when it is. But as a classroom teacher, I would never lecture a class for 85 minutes. So there might be some mini lesson, there might be some breakout rooms through Zoom, there might be some writing time, there might be a quiz that's given to the students who are in class, and the students at home I can then Zoom with for a period of time. And then when those students change in the coming days, the quiz would be given to the students who are in class. This will be a fluid changing thing depending on the lesson of the day. So I would not imagine, nor would I want the students at home to be on screen for 4 85-minute periods. It's not probably what we would choose for them to be doing. We want to have some breaks, some opportunities to talk to one another, some opportunities to read and to write, and to prepare work that they would then share out again when they come back to the group. I could imagine that there would be times in an 85-minute period where they're live, they go away for 20 minutes, come back in 20 minutes, re-engage, depending on what the goals of that lesson are.
Thank you. Miller Ward asks, if someone is just regularly sick, not sick with COVID, do they stay home and participate in distance learning?
Alicia, would you like to give some advice on that?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
If someone is sick but not sick with COVID, would they stay home and participate in distance learning?
If we know for sure that they are not sick with COVID and they have no fever and no other contagious symptoms, they could come to school, but that would require a negative test and likely a doctor's note. So it would depend on the symptoms that they're experiencing and a conversation with the school nurse as to whether or not they could come to school. But if you have symptoms of COVID and have not had a test, then we will be asking you to remain out for the 14 days, especially, that depends on exposure as well. If you've been exposed to someone who's definitely positive for COVID, then you will be asked to remain out for the 14 days. If it's symptoms but no exposure to COVID, then it'll depend on the symptoms and whether or not you had a test. If you have symptoms and a positive test but no exposure, then you obviously have to stay home.
Okay. And Mrs. Dunn, it is 3:10.
Maybe one more question and then
Sure.
we'll respond to the rest of the questions on frequently asked questions or on via email.
Sure. Teresa Vogt, I apologize, we missed part of your question. Are we closing the campus to residents who usually walk around the loop?
We haven't had discussions about closing the campus, but there should not be anyone on the inner campus at all during the school day. And we'll take up that conversation about the access to the front loop. Obviously, the cross-country path is not to be used during the school day. And so that's not a decision that has been made, but if it is, we will communicate that to the community as well.
Thank you.
All right, we thank you very much for joining us. Again, please feel free to reach out to us if questions come up after this. We will be meeting with small student groups. We've continued to do that last week and we'll plan to do that again in the coming days. And we are looking forward to seeing all of you soon and working with you through these bumps in the road. Hopefully we will have smooth sailing and with all of our cooperation, we can have a wonderful school year together. Thank you very much for joining us and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, high school.
Thank you.